My name is Jessica Schultz. Welcome to my newly minted science blog, Emerald Ocean, where I'll talk about things that I'm working on, learning about, or thinking about in my career as a marine biologist. Today I'd like to talk about a local star, a sea star that is, that was recently designated internationally as critically endangered. Sunflower stars are a fascinating, huge, and voracious predator. As with any top predator, they play an important role in the ecosystem. Starting in 2013, a mysterious and gruesome wasting disease began affecting at least 20 different species of sea stars, and sunflower stars were particularly hard hit throughout their entire range. In December 2020, sunflower stars were listed as critically endangered by the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. This is big news. Critically endangered is an estimation of extinction risk. If a species declines by 80% or more, it's considered critically endangered. Sunflower stars decline by 91%. It feels crazy now to think about how abundant sunflower stars used to be. Among other things, for me, studying sea stars has been a lesson in humility and not taking things for granted. I distinctly remember diving when the walls were absolutely covered in sea stars and moving them aside so I could see the interesting stuff underneath them. Now an estimated 5.75 billion sunflower stars are gone. They haven't been seen south of Oregon since 2018, and in British Columbia and Alaska, they're at less than 10% of their pre-wasting numbers in most areas. With their numbers so low, urchins have no key predator to keep their numbers down. Urchins eat kelp, and so in combination with recent marine heat waves, kelp forests in many areas are in decline. But here's the thing. Listing sea stars as critically endangered is actually a good thing. Although it can be depressing to hear that yet another species is now critically endangered, it's actually a very important step in the right direction. Conducting a global population assessment is no small task, especially for organisms that live underwater. In this case, it took 66 institutions, 31 datasets, and over 61,000 underwater surveys. As a result of that effort, we now have the information needed in order to move forward. The IUCN assessment was an important way of identifying knowledge gaps and important actions, such as captive breeding initiatives aimed at helping the species recover. When a species is listed as critically endangered, it creates accountability for how we interact with the animal and its habitat. It also gets much more consideration in things like management plans, policies, planning, and reporting about how we're doing on biodiversity conservation. While it's certainly distressing that the population numbers are so low, hopefully this will bring some much needed attention to the larger issues. One thing that is particularly inspiring is that so much of the data that went into the assessment was submitted by the community. Citizen scientists, ordinary people who collect observations and submit them on their own time. Without citizen science, we wouldn't have nearly the geographic coverage or the long-term data that was so important to understanding the impact of wasting syndrome. If you're someone who spends time on, under, or near the ocean, you can contribute by submitting your observations in one of three ways: through iNaturalist, Marine at seastarwasting.org, or through the Reef Environmental Education Foundation. And this information is very helpful for researchers to understand where the population is and how it's continuing to change over time. Sunflower stars are the first sea star to be listed on the IUCN Red List. There are very few marine invertebrates listed, other than things that we eat or reef-building corals. And so from this perspective, the listing is a win because it indicates that we're starting to pay more attention and hopefully beginning to recognize that all species play an important role in the ocean ecosystem and ultimately in our own well-being, even if it's not immediately obvious. Thanks so much for your interest. Please don't be shy to subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. A final shout out to the many organizations and individuals hard at work on sea star conservation.